We have some small discussion, 20 minutes, to talk about some of the emerging issues around mobility and the possibility of the e-mobility. Tell us who you are a little bit.
Thank you very much. My name is Moses Nderitu. I serve as the Chief Revenue Officer at BasiGo, Kenya. BasiGo is an e-mobility startup that is trying to electrify public transport in Kenya and around Africa.
So when you say electrify, what do you do?
Basically, what we are doing is we are allowing our PSV operators or our matatu operators to be able to acquire electric buses in place of their polluting diesel buses. So that's actually what we're doing by, bringing those vehicles here and also being able to solve all the barriers for them, the barriers to entry. One, are the vehicles fit for purpose? Can they be driven on our Kenyan roads? Is the charging infrastructure there? Is the service and maintenance available? Can we finance them? So we solve all those entry barriers, and then the effect of that is to be able that they can then acquire those and actually start running a more greener fleet.
Okay, we've seen quite a bit of progress on your work with the PSV operators. How tough is it to get into that, and what have you done so far? How many buses do you have? Which routes? And what else have you done beyond the buses?
Yeah, it's very tough to get into it. I mean, mainly because of all the barriers I've mentioned, and also the biggest challenge with e-mobility or with electric vehicles is the high cost of acquiring an electric vehicle, especially in a country where we do not buy new cars, where we buy used vehicles which are second, third, fourth hand from other countries. So you find that that's a very big barrier to entry. However, what have we done? So far, what we have done is we've been able to, we started a pilot last year, and for a period of just around 15 months, we were able to run that pilot. And then beyond that, we've currently are running, there are 17 buses running on different routes with different circles, so all the way from City Hopper, which are running not far from here, from Allsops to the airport and to CBD. We've got a few on Embasava coming from the eastern part, Donholm and Nyayo Estate to the city, Metro Trans and Super Metro, which do multiple routes around, and also Oma Services, which basically is the route number 23 from Outer Ring to the CBD. That's what we've done. So we've got also 2 new buses which are in product validation, but those are the buses once product validation is finished, we'll be able to actually start local assembly of those buses and hence make it more affordable and more available to the market. On top of that, we've created 3 charging depots, one in Buruburu, which is a public charging depot, one in Embakasi, which is just mainly for us, and another one in Kikuyu. And we're going to be creating a lot more charging depots.
I think lots of discussions around e-mobility, you probably hear quite a bit of government hand to ensure kind of adoption, tariffs, maybe some kind of ways to facilitate the sector. What is the kind of local environment? And if you put that into perspective with what the President of Kenya talked about 2 weeks back, of providing e-bikes or e-motorbikes to the border operators, how is the regulatory environment around that? And put that into perspective with what the government talked about 2 weeks ago.
Okay, I'll start with a more difficult question, the regulatory environment. Currently, there is no single policy in government in regards to electric mobility. So the only incentive we've ever seen or regulation was when they reduced excise duty from 20% to 10% on passenger vehicles. So that does not apply to us who are doing buses. Of course, there's a lot of talk. I mean, I must say, in the last 1 year, we having the government having no, what I would say, no sight of e-mobility, and now where we actually hearing President making repeated statements on e-mobility and looking at it as a way of mitigating partly the very high cost of fuel. So I know that at the Ministry of Transport, they're trying to now create the e-mobility policy. As you said, the President said that we were going to get incentives in the budget, so we are all waiting with bated breath for Thursday. And yes, there's a question of bringing electric motorcycles. The details of how that's going to happen are not very clear, but however, we are quite excited that there's around 25 startup companies doing two-wheelers, and those are the companies that we hope that are going to be able to take that step forward and actually take advantage of the enabling environment that the government may provide.
So you've talked a lot about the bus. You've talked about something about the two-wheelers. Most of the guys in the room here probably operate trucks, pickups, to ferry goods into the market or to ambulances going. What do you think is the kind of outlook as we go forward? Do you think Kenya is at a place where e-mobility could be something that in 5 years' time could be a fairly developed market?
I think if we just look at even the statistics of normal, what we call vehicles, and when we say vehicles, we're talking all the way from two-wheelers all the way to your trucks. For every one car, if you call it that is registered in Kenya, 5 bikes are registered. Hence why you're seeing a big push on the two-wheelers and the three-wheelers. On average, Kenya is adding around 300,000 two-wheelers every year. So that's why you see a big push. The other push and why we are in buses is if you take a city like Nairobi, 80% of people either walk, take a boda or take a bus. So public transport is then going to be leading. I think the next area that's going to happen is commercial vehicles, so like such as trucks. The challenge right now is we are been in early stage, we're in that chicken and egg. What comes first? Is it the vehicles or is it the infrastructure? So for us at BasiGo, we are building both at the same time, but with a clear knowledge that infrastructure must be opened to possible commercial vehicles such as trucks. I think in the audience, a good friend of mine has told me he's looking to electrify his trucks that do delivery, and that is something exciting. However, without convenient infrastructure, then that becomes very difficult. And then when we come to the car market is actually the most difficult, because when you look at buses we buy new from your GMs and everyone. When it comes to trucks, a lot of trucks are actually, especially delivery trucks, you will find they buy brand new from the Mitsubishis, the Isuzus and that. But when it comes to passenger vehicles, what we drive, we buy 8-year-old cars. So it becomes very difficult, and the way our tax regime is, an 8-year-old car will be depreciated all the way to 75%. Well, a brand new vehicle has got a 0.5 depreciation. So it becomes even that more expensive to buy an electric vehicle. And on the other hand, you do not want to buy an electric vehicle that's probably been operating in another country where they've got very cold winters and very hot summers, and you're not very sure on the state of charge or the state of battery. And I think we've learned that, I was telling you earlier, we've learned that from the cell phone market. There was a time there was a very vibrant cell phone market in Kenya, and people were buying second-hand phones. And a lot of that has dissipated because of the battery life. So you want to be able to buy a brand new electric vehicle, because then you can get the warranty in case of any technological risk, especially related to the battery, which normally costs between 30 and 40% the cost of the vehicle.
Any question from the audience? Yes.
That was quick.
It's a very speedy one. Yes.
Thank you very much. Moses, you know I'm going to challenge you. So in this era of looking towards sustainable movement, today lunchtime we were talking about how we don't have a public transport system, which is, again, something that is very unsustainable. As you go into this sector, can your next one be sorting our public transport system? I know you can't do a metro on your own, but you could, with the powers that be, look to see in with the e-mobility, what we can do from a public point of view. I keep telling people when we say public, people say matatu, and I keep saying no. Matatus are owned by individuals, so it's a private transport system. How from where you sit, can we move into efficient public transport that allows me not to have to drive?
If I can take that one first, because it's quite a difficult one. I think you're trying to make me become the governor of Nairobi, but that's not. But it's a clear saying. We always say the only thing public in public transport in Kenya is the passenger. So we have what we have, and we have to work within the atmosphere we have. We have seen, just outside here, there is a BRT line, if you want to call it that. But however, there's been a lot of start-stop. But there's nowhere where public transport in the world has worked where government is not involved. Now, it's a bit difficult to ask government to come back into that sector 40 years after you've liberalized. So what we are trying to do is say, this is the ecosystem we have. What I have seen, especially in my role, is a lot of these matatu operators want to change. And because they want to change and they want to move to different systems, a lot of them are now looking, and they've seen that they're using electric mobility as a tool for change. So what are the things they're asking us? Can we then create booking apps so that you then can actually pre-book your seat on that vehicle on a continuous line? They're now talking to regulators. Since people are already pre-booked, the bus does not stand, it's not parked in a bus stop, it's just picking and dropping. Can they then be able to do routes like Utawala to Westlands as opposed to you going to the CBD? So there's changes that are happening, but when you want to disrupt a market, you don't want to disrupt everything at once. So we are taking it a step at a time, and we are using the vehicle as the agent for change.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Rosalid. I work at Biofoods. I'm totally sold out when it comes to electrical vehicles, but I think my main question with regards to the new Sustainable Management Act that's coming up, which requires the producer or the person who's doing manufacturing to also take care of their post-consumer. So my question would be, I have tried reading as much as possible, and I can't see a proper platform for us to take back the lithium batteries. So I'm trying to think ahead. I think the electric vehicle business will eventually pick up. But again, I wouldn't want us to start making laws like the plastic waste laws that we now can't use electric vehicles because there is lithium everywhere. What are we doing about that?
The only way I can answer is that what are we doing? So we are looking at, our buses are from a company called BYD in China, and what BYD does with second life batteries is put them into energy storage. So as part of the contract we have with BYD, at the end of life of the vehicle, so they give us a warranty of 8 years or 600,000 kilometers, whichever comes first. So at the end of life of the battery, those batteries can be repurposed for either energy storage from solar systems and that kind of thing. And I think a lot of the motorcycle companies are also looking into that. However, yes, I agree that it's a threat. I think around a year ago, we saw a whole bunch of taxis that had been dumped somewhere because the batteries had actually packed up, and that's why we've been pushing the Kenya Bureau of Standards on this importation of almost vehicles that where their state of charge or their battery life is almost at zero. So for e-mobility, we are trying to move the country, and we've started an association for the Electric Mobility Association of Kenya to push the government that we then do not become a dumping ground for generation 1 and generation 2 of electric vehicles, and we then can move to actually the current generation of the electric vehicles and then put in those regulations so that we can then repurpose those batteries as second life. Yeah, and there's a few companies that are looking towards that on how to repurpose lithium-ion batteries for a second life. Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Arthur again. Possibly mine is a comment on e-mobility, and I would say that the structure is quite elaborate. I know there are manufacturers who have also been given a license to do manufacturing of batteries, and batteries which can last 15 years. We have people who are doing e-waste, and the e-waste, they'll be carrying that to including the batteries. When it comes to motorcycles, a motorcycle can run for about 85 kilometers per charged battery. And that would cost, for you to replace another charged battery, you need only 200 shillings. So you can see that the saving on 200 shillings and you are doing 85 kilometers is quite saving. So the system is really coming, and what is permanent is change. I know when the computers were coming, people were talking about the e-waste, where we're going to dispose it, but we are recycling the same. In most cases, it's copper that is inside and which is recyclable. So, and the way you say, the lithium, of course, will be when you go back, you can reprocess it. So there are people who will reprocess it, and then it's reusable. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amina Mohammed. I'll just stand so that you guys can see me. I just wanted to introduce myself, since this forum and the last forum was about renewable energy as well as electric vehicles. So I work with a company called GridX Africa. We finance solar installations for the C&I sector, as well as electric trucks, electric boilers, cold solution or cold storages. So I guess during coffee break, if any one of you has any questions regarding the renewable energy space, we can have a chat.
Okay, thank you. Moses, there's a lot more to talk about, but time is always of the essence. Maybe just a final comment as we step out.
I think for me, what I would like to say is e-mobility is here. We are at the point where we were when the telco started, and there was skepticism. People who had landlines never thought they would require a cell phone. I think we are going to move on to, we are getting to the point whereby that transition is going to start happening, and it's already started happening, and it's going to happen really fast. So it's a good time to get on board. It gives our country an opportunity to move from imported fossil fuels to locally generated power. And like for us, we are taking advantage of the time of use on the e-mobility tariff. So we do more charging, 80 to 90% of all charging after 10 p.m. and before 5 a.m. And then the vehicles are available in the day. And those chargers will be open to other vehicles. So when the trucks come, when the taxis come, and of course there's a different model with a lot of the motorcycles, but a lot of the motorcycles are then using a battery swap model. So again, that risk of batteries being dumped is actually being passed on or being left with the company. With that, I just say thank you for the opportunity to come and speak here. Thank you.